Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Zoroth Nexus. My name is Luke, and today we're going to talk about the 2H Duel Wield build that I made back in Storm, now being updated for Greymoor. Very excited to show this off, as Greymoor is a great patch to be playing in terms of class versatility and build versatility in general. There's a lot of options that you have now that you can really build for and see a lot of different results, whether that's coming from mythic items or this, that, and the other. I will say, first and foremost, as far as skills go for this build, not really anything has changed. I can give you a few different options for things that you can do, but the main setup is the same. The gear, however, has changed a little bit, which is very, very exciting. I'm very, very excited to show you that. So let's just go ahead and jump into a little bit, and I'll explain some of that to you. Again, I am playing a Khajiit. If you so desire, you can play another race. You will pull very similarly, if not better, depending on what you're playing. So if you're playing an Orc, it's good potential you could pull better, maybe, maybe not. So like I said, I would suggest Orc or Dark Elf, any stamina race. Even if you're not a stamina race, you got the right gear, the right skill, you can pull high numbers. So with our front bar here, we're getting unbuffed 3326 weapon damage and 48% weapon critical. On our back bar, we've got 2992 weapon damage and 44% weapon critical. We're using the Shadow Mundus Stone. And our buff food, for the purposes of parsing, we're using Lavafoot Soup. Obviously, if you're in a fight, you want to use Dubious or something else. So I will go ahead and go over the skills with you really quick. Let's take a look at our front bar here. We are using Camo Hunter, Consuming Trap, Wrecking Blow, Relentless Focus, Executioner, and Incapacitating Strikes. Deadly Cloak on our back bar, Razor Caltrops, Rending Slashes, Leeching Strikes, Barbed Trap, and Incapacitating Strike again. So just a quick little explanation of these skills. Camo Hunter is on our bar because it's going to give us extra weapon damage, and just for having it slotted we get weapon critical from our Major Savagery, and if you so happen to be hitting the enemy from behind, you get Minor Berserk. Consuming Trap, pretty self-explanatory. It's a dot. It's from our magic pool, which is going to help out our stamina sustain quite a bit. Wrecking Blow, our spammable, and luckily those light attack changes did not come into effect this patch, so we're getting empowered to our light attacks once again with our two-hander. Relentless Focus, this is going to give you your nice bow proc and or damage resist if you decide not to fire it, depending on your situation in combat. Executioner for our execute. If you decide to, you can take the other morph for some AoE executes. However, I doubt you're going to need any AoE damage, and I'll explain why when we get to sets. Incap Strike, pretty self-explanatory. I mean, 20% more damage for 6 seconds. It's a nice little damage boost. Yeah. So this is where some people may or may not get confused. I don't know, but I'll explain it to you the way I like to explain it to people. Number one, we have our Deadly Cloak. This is going to operate as if we were using a bow. This would be our Hail of Arrows. However, there's actually a lot of advantages to using Deadly Cloak instead of Hail of Arrows, in particular with this build. And the reason for that is because instead of firing an AoE and having a predetermined location that enemies can move in and out of, Deadly Cloak is going to be on you when you cast it. So when you use the ability, wherever you go, the damage goes. So it's very beneficial to have that. Razor Caltrops. This is a slot that you can change. This is pretty much your only real flex slot on this build. So if you need a heal, you can put a heal there. If you actually need Major Fracture, you got Caltrops on there already. Good for you. A lot of tanks are actually using Ransack now instead of Pierce Armor for that minor protection, so maybe you're the guy to do that. Our other option would be to put Camo Hunter here as well. Simply because, let's pretend for a minute, and a lot of people don't have this, so you don't have medicinal use. Nah, that's okay. That means you're going to have less uptime from your potions. Let's take a look here. You're going to have less uptime on that Major Savagery on your back bar. Well, if you use Camo Hunter here, you're going to have it 100% of the time, so that's a good a good thing to do. If you do have medicinal use and you want to, you could slot Ring of Preservation. That's also a nice ability to have there. Really, you just want to slot a Fighter's Guild ability in general for that Slayer passive. Rending Slashes, this is going to act like our Poison Injection. It's pretty self-explanatory. That's actually what our dual wield weapons will benefit us from. If you saw the Hero Storm patch, you'll know what I'm talking about. Leeching Strikes for our sustain, nothing else to really say there. Barbed Trap for our minor force, and it's another dot that does quite a bit of damage. Incap Strike, once again, already explained it on the front bar. So there's your skills. Like I said, flex slot here if you so choose. You could also use this as a flex slot if you have medicinal use and you don't really see yourself having to get that minor berserk or whatever reason. This is something you could switch if you, for some reason, wanted to. So like I said, skills are pretty similar to what they were in last patch. This is where we get really, really interesting, though. I'm very excited about this. I should say we're not using any mythic items in my current gear setup, so that it's friendly to everybody that hasn't really gotten any of that gear yet or just doesn't want to use it. I completely understand. Scrying is not exactly the most fun thing to do. It can get very monotonous very quickly. So, let's take a look here. Monster Helm. We're using Selene's. There's no real surprise there. This is really your best stamina Monster Helm set that you can use. Obviously, we're going to get all of our gear in general in Divine's traits, and we want it all enchanted in stamina, so we're using a heavy Selene helm and a light Selene shoulder if you can get your hands on that for your nice Undaunted passive. Yeah, so that's that. We'll go ahead and talk about weapons and jewelry. For our weapons and jewelry, we're using Aegis Collar once again. In particular, with our Greatsword, we were using it with a Nirnhoned trait. I like to stack a lot of max weapon damage. You can also actually see with my jewelry, I decided to take one Infused on the necklace so that I can get more weapon damage out of that. If you decide to use the axe, you're more than welcome to do that. In fact, you may get better results. I personally like to use the Greatsword, though. We're using poisons as well, crown lethal poisons. These are obviously actually craftable in the game. Just you want your double dot poisons. I think it's Ravage Health and Slow Ravage Health or something like that. Our rings, once again, Aegis Collar and Bloodthirsty traits on those, or you can go Bloodthirsty on all three if you want. Weapon damage enchantments on there, of course. And our Backbar weapons are the new and improved Masters Perfected Duel Wield. So previously this was not in the game, now we do have it, so that's fantastic. If you don't have the Perfected, not a big deal at all. You're going to be missing out on a little bit of weapon critical, and that's okay. But if you do have the Perfected, that extra weapon critical will help you out, so of course try and get it if you can. But if not, you can run it on normal and get the Unperfected. Just fine, just fine. Yeah, so on to one of my new favorite sets in the game, the Venomous Smite Set. Now, if you don't know anything about this set, I'll go ahead and put a card now, and you can click on that and check out a video I did on it. Long story short, this set is really good. It's very, very good. We get 2 lines of critical here, and a 4th line, or 1 line, I should say, of weapon damage. And then our 5-piece here, when we do critical damage, we inflict Hunter's Venom, which gives us a 3k tick on our poison damage. Very, very nice, especially in tandem with our Aegis Collar. The benefit of Venomous is that it actually stays on the enemy, so if they move away from you, you can maintain that on the enemy. A lot of people will want to use Reliquin here. That's completely acceptable. I will tell you, though, Venomous is actually going to be better in most situations. In my experience, I'd also like to thank my buddy for actually testing this out for me, because before it was just all theorycraft. He has tried it. I have now tried it. It's very, very good. I highly suggest it. If you do you want to use Reliquin, you will find that on a dummy Parse it will pull a little bit higher. And that is simply because in an instance where you can stand completely still for an entire fight, i.e. Sunspire, okay, that's probably a better set. But get back to me when you can list a ton of instances where you're standing still and you don't drop Reliquin stacks all the time. In that case, Venomous is always going to be better. So that's what we're running for my build. Obviously, all stamina and all divines on the trait. Okay, so that's all the gear, that's all the skills. Something I would like to do now that I did not do in my other videos is actually show you champion points. Yeah, Let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so we'll go ahead and start in our blue tree. We've got 50 into Mighty, 40 in Piercing, 50 in Precise Strikes, and 54 into Thaumaturge. We are doing quite a few damage over time effects, so this will help us out there. 60 into Master at Arms, 16 into Physical Weapon Expert. That's going to get us just enough to get that nice Butcher passive, which increases our light and heavy attack damage during execute. In our green tree, if you're interested in this at all, 34 in Shadow Ward, 40 into Tumbling, 50 into Tenacity, 100 into Mooncalf, 30 into Warlord, 16 into Sprinter. I know a lot of people like to run higher on their Tumbling and Shadow Ward. I find that I don't need it, but should you like to, you can drop some points off of Warlord and Sprinter and put those in accordingly. Defensive trees, this is obviously according to what content you do. I like to default to 50 in Hardy, Elemental Defender, and Thick-Skinned, 50 into Spell Shield, and 70 into Ironclad. But that's all depending on what content you want to do. If you want to change that, I don't really like to do that. This works for me on everything, so there's your CP. Okay, so like I usually do, I'll go ahead and give you a Parse live, and then we'll talk about some numbers that I've hit in the past, and who knows, maybe I'll hit higher on the actual skeleton. We'll see. Alright, so Relentless, Leeching, Potion, Trap Beast, and we're off. Okay, so as you can see on our damage there, we got 42.8, so roughly 43k. Yeah, let's just talk about damage. So up here I also hit a 42.3. You're going to be hitting really hard with this. Something I would like to point out is, obviously this is not a 3 mil dummy. We're hitting 42k. This is actually around what I was suggesting we would hit in the previous patch when light attacks were in effect, and also our Empower was not infecting our light attacks. So the numbers are there. What's scarier is this should actually be higher because we were using Reliquim before. So what that means is you're hitting exactly what we would have been hitting previously without Reliquim, and it's all AoE. So we have massive AoE off of our Venomous and our Aegis, and we have really good single targets. So those numbers down there are going to translate really well into trash packs that you're going to end up fighting. And as a matter of fact, if you really wanted to kick it into overdrive, you could switch your Consuming Trap to Soul Splitting, and your AoE is going to be absolutely insane. And all you had to do was throw on Venomous and Aegis Collar. So as you can see, this works really nice on a dummy. I highly suggest you give this a try. Something I may have failed to actually mention was our rotation here. So let me just go over that real quick, just in case you haven't seen the original video. It's really quite easy. It's set up intentionally, obviously, to be easy to follow and easy to use. You want to start out buffing with Relentless Focus, Backbar, Leeching Strikes, drink your potion to get yourself your Major Brutality and your Major Savagery, drop your Barbed Trap, Deadly Cloak, raise your Caltrops, Rending Slashes, Bar Swap. Consuming Trap, 3 Wrecking Blows, Bar Swap, and start over. Obviously, you only need to reapply your Barbed Trap every 2 rotations, and the same can be said for your Leeching strikes, should you need that. Our Incapacitating Strike ultimate I like to use exclusively when I'm on the front bar, just simply because it pushes my damage further when I'm using the spammable. You can pop this whenever you feel the need, but personally I tend to get more damage using it at the on the front bar. Also, with your bow proc off of your Relentless Focus, I highly suggest you either fire it at the very beginning or the very end of your Wrecking Blow spam. So what I mean by that is you don't want to do 2 Wrecking Blows and then fire an arrow, because it's going to actually slow you down. There's something weird with the animation, and I'm not really sure what it is, but it tends to slow me down at least. Maybe that's just me. But yeah, so I would try to, when I get to the front bar, do Consuming Trap, and if the bow's ready, fire it, and then do 3 Wrecking Blows. If it's not, I'll do Consuming Trap, 3 Wrecking Blows, and then the arrow, and then bar swap. Yeah, so that's the rotation again, if you didn't see it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, please be sure to let me know. I'll try to leave a lot of the information in the description. There were a few of you asking me about a website. I do not have a website, nor do I intend to have one. So for any written information, I'll try to put as much as I can in the description. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Peace out.